Juventus play their best game of the season to send Manchester City home, a loser. I'd like to brag for a minute. I've spent the last 2 weeks on the Old Lady Speaks podcast saying that Juventus, despite their struggles to break out of the doldrums of draws, had every chance to beat Manchester City. City was struggling coming in, that's for sure. They'd lost 6 of their last 9 games, many of which hadn't been particularly close. But they were still the club that employs the likes of Kevin De Bruyne, Erling Haaland, and Bernardo Silva. They have the quality to right themselves in a second, and were clearly the most dangerous team Juve had remaining on the schedule before Christmas. And Juventus did beat them. It wasn't a white-knuckled Corto Muso win that require mainlining beta blockers to watch. The Bayern Canary was solid from the outset, allowing City the possession they crave, but prevented them from creating significant danger. As they grew into the game, they showed the ability to pass their way out of the press in a way that was completely absent against Bologna at the weekend. Juve went into the locker room clearly believing that they could go and take this game, and in the second half they did just that. A header by Dusan Vlahovic and a historic strike from the club's American tandem provided the margin, while Juve's defense held fast, never really making it feel like they were ever in any trouble. What this 2-0 win, Juve's first in all competitions since the Derby della Mole on November 9th, will mean for the future is still to be decided by fate. What it means in the present is that Juventus have catapulted themselves up 8 places in the Champions League standings and have given themselves a signature European win. A win that, unlike the bonkers comeback in Leipzig, came about because the game plan was executed to perfection from the first whistle to the last. This was what Thiago Motta's Juventus is supposed to look like, perhaps a little bit more defensive than usual given their opponent, but then nonetheless, Motta got Weston McKennie and Douglas Luiz back from injury, but was missing Andrea Cambiaso, Nico Gonzalez, and Arkady Smilik. His 4-2-3-1 was anchored in goal by Michel Di Gregorio. Nicolo Savona, Federico Gatti, Pierre Kalyalu, and Danilo fanned out in front of him. Manuel Locatelli and Kefren Thuram formed the double pivot, with Francisco Conceição, Tun Koopmeiners, and Kenan Yildiz supported Vlahovic in attack. Pep Guardiola had an injury problem just as bad as Motta's had been a few weeks ago. The headliner for this M*A*S*H* unit was Ballon d'Or winner Rodri, who suffered a season-ending torn ACL in his right knee in September. Nathan Ake, Oscar Bob, John Stones, and Manuel Akanji also missed out. Mateo Kovacic and Phil Foden returned to the squad but were only fit for the bench, after a muscle injury and a chest infection, respectively. Guardiola deployed a formation that was nominally a 4-3-3, although during the game it would morph a bit. Ederson returned to the City goal after being benched for 3 games following a horrific display in the team's collapse against Feyenoord in the last round of the league phase. Kyle Walker, Josko Gvardiol, Ruben Dias, and Rico Lewis screened him in defence. Bernardo Silva, Ilkay Gundogan, and Kevin De Bruyne set up in midfield, and the attack was made up of Jeremy Doku, Erling Haaland, and Jack Grealish.